2023 election, Nigeria decides who sees to the affairs of the nation. Obasanjo calls for caution and ratification. Watch, like, and share as Arise analysts analyze the situation in the country.
And legislative elections. I'm Charles Onyeko.
And I am Adesua Omorwan.
And we have received a letter from President Obasanjo, Nigeria's former president, Olusegun Obasanjo, in which he's been analyzing the latest developments around the issues emerging from this ballot, and also chipping in to give his suggestions and his assessment of the best way forward. We're preparing a proper graphic of that letter, which we will put up on the screen as soon as it's ready. But in synopsis, he suggested that INEC officials at the operational level have been allegedly compromised to make what should have worked not work, and to revert to manual transmission of results, which he says have been manipulated and the results doctored. He said that the chairman of INEC might claim ignorance, but he can't fold his hands and do nothing when he knows that the election process has been corrupted, and most of the results that are brought outside Beavers and the server are not a true reflection of the will of Nigerians. He warned that tension is building and called on President Buhari to cancel all elections that do not pass the credibility and transparency test. He suggested many of those, moving those elections to March the 4th. Those elections that he mentioned were disrupted, and that the Beavers and the server officials be changed.
Indeed, Charles, there's been another letter as well from a former head of state, who is also the head of the Peace Committee, Suleman Abubakar. In that letter, he is also calling for peace and calm. However, particularly in paragraph 7, which I find interesting, Charles, he says INEC can take all the time it requires to ensure that it delivers results that inspire the confidence of the Nigerian people and meet time-tested international standards.
Very interesting indeed, and you can see that this is not just a sort of sideline, sort of a side crisis. It's now been taking center stage. Let's bring in Arise analysts who are with us. Dr. Constant Ikoku is with us in the studio, and in our overflow offsite studio is Arise legal analyst Chinwe Izebu. Let's come to you first, Constant Ikoku. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. This crisis now clearly deepening. Letters from President Obasanjo, Abdul Salami Abubakar, President Obasanjo pointedly calling for the elections to be cancelled, or at least the places where they were disrupted. What do you make of it?
I mean, Charles, it's been a remarkable few days, astonishing occurrences from different parts of the country, and there have been heightened levels of agitation. And between yesterday and today, I think many Nigerians are now beginning to make the effort to de-escalate the tension, because it's very important that people do not start to go out on the streets to begin protests, and then you lose control, and then the country comes to a grind. This is a very important election, as we have seen. The whole world is watching, Nigerians are watching. But these two letters from these two former heads of state, in fact, Obasanjo, we know he always writes letters. He follows everything that happens, he's very active, he speaks out, very vocal. But Abdul Salami Abubakar, he hasn't been very vocal in terms of writing letters and making comments when there is election. So this is significant that these two men are coming out and speaking out after the elections. And I think one of the reasons why they are speaking out is that they want the country to remain together. They want a united Nigeria. No one wants the country to implode. Because if that happens, where are you going to put all the people in this country? We are more than 60% of West Africa. So when people begin to move out, what are you going to do? You cannot handle it. So it is critical that Nigeria is able to manage itself. But the letters are very, very strong. They came out saying categorically that there are problems that need to be addressed by the INEC chairman. Yesterday, when the INEC chairman addressed the press, he sort of pretended that nothing was happening. He went on to say we'll continue with the collation of results. But today, in the morning today, he did similar, but in the evening, he began to say, okay, we will look into the grievances. I think, of course, maybe people have begun to speak to him to say, sir, you must do something. This is about legacy. It's not only about, the elections. You want to leave a legacy after a couple of elections that you have organized. So this is significant that we are having letters from these two former heads of state. And I want to, sort of look at them. So for instance, Abdul Salami, he mentioned strongly, he used the word, he said, INEC must start and escalate investigations wherever, people are complaining. But he also commended from the beginning, commended Nigerians for coming out. The turnout has been massive. Okay, so if people have turned out to vote, you cannot discountenance that. You cannot disenfranchise them. So you must do something about it. He mentioned voter suppression, which it seems has been happening across the country. He talked about inducement of voters, deliberate frustrations, challenges with equipment. He laid it all out there. And then to Obasanjo also mentioned about legacy. He spoke directly to President Muhammad Buhari. This is about what you leave behind you when you get out of office. So do you want that? Do you want to be remembered as the president who handed us down a good election or not? So these are my general thoughts for now.